Hello, guys, and welcome to Eve 8015. I am here with moderator, and we're going to be watching Project.Mayhem VS Snuffed Out. Project Mayhem
Yes.
of. Sorry, continue.
Yep. Project Mayhem choosing to go with a Balgorn, a pair of Navy Brutixes, an Augurer for reps, a pair of Harbingers, Confessor, 2 Vexers, and a Purifier. Guardian Oneros being banned out by Snuffbox would be a good reason as to why you bring an Augurer. We saw that continuing to be a trend in Alliance Tournament 15 so far, that when those 2 ships get banned out, we see an Augurer or we see some sort of Deacons if teams want to go for an armor composition. Walk us through the Snuffed Out side, Brett.
Snuffed Out have brought a single Rattlesnake, dual Sleipnirs, a Scimitar, a Stork, dual Mowers, dual Caracals, and a Melon, and they've all warped in ranges. You can see that they've got this really powerful high-end shield set up with the Rattlesnake and the 2 Sleipnirs. If the Sleipnirs are arty, then this team applies a lot of damage at a hell of a lot of range. And you've got the Stork as kind of providing links, as long as with those Sleipnirs, and you've got the 2 Mowers that kind of provide heavy tackle while the Caracals kind of haze everything small.
So, a couple interesting things of note. We're just now getting confirmation in local that Exuk, I'm not even going to try pronouncing that Russian name. The Balgorn fielded by Project Mayhem will in fact be your flagship, choosing to opt for those officer webs and newts. And the Sleipnirs on the Snuffed Out side will be autocannon, so this will not be a kiting composition. They're going to get in on top of one of these ships, or at least try to. They may have difficulty actually closing to range on the Balgorn, but either way, this will be a very bloody and exciting match. That Balgorn being as close as he is to the Snuffed Out side will want to grab something and quickly primary it. If they can grab a Scimitar or, say, something like a Stork rather quickly to shut off some of the links, shut off the Logi, it'll do a great deal going forward for the Project Mayhem side.
Yeah, because as you can see, Project Mayhem have got all Navy Brutix and dual Harbinger, which, as we've seen as a battlecruiser core, is very standard. It's got a huge amount of long-range damage. It can do a hell of a lot of short range if you get close enough, and it's just a very flexible ship that, with these Balgorn's webs, will be able to snipe something small.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about a Confessor in the current meta with 6 points as opposed to one of the cruisers, but we have seen that Project Mayhem is opting for the Vexer, and the Confessor still has some viability as heavy tackle, so I'm excited to see how that Confessor gets on top of something. But speaking of things that they're on top of, that Moa is being completely webbed down and locked by this Balgorn, and is the immediate primary for Project Mayhem. Talisk is taking a significant amount of damage, and he's running his ASB flat out, but it'll be difficult to sustain him. Speaking of things that are not sustaining, the Purifier of Ramalaya is now down.
Yeah, and these Sleipnirs are already on top of this Balgorn. It is grappled and scrambled and is not going anywhere. And it's trying to receive reps from an Augurer, but an Augurer is not as powerful as a Guardian, so it will not do as well trying to keep this thing alive. And the Moa of Snuffed is holding. It's got those Scimitar reps and it's staying alive.
Yeah, also, the Augurer has a significant cloud of rep drones on top of it. Those are not being put on the Balgorn, who desperately needs them now. We're seeing clouds of medium rep drones swarm across the Balgorn, but it's too little, too late. As the Balgorn, the flagship of Project Mayhem, is now down. Project Mayhem losing that flag Balgorn at the same time that Basilisk is still alive. He's been surviving in a Moa this entire time that they've been trading out for the Balgorn. Basilisk now drops. And that's disastrous for Project Mayhem, losing their flagship in that way.
Yeah, Project Mayhem did something very good, though. They swapped to a Caracal and dropped it into about 50% shield, so the Scimitar immediately shot from the Moa to it, and then they retargeted the Moa and blocked it off the field, but they're already losing a Harbinger of Tau Ad that's being shot by all of the drones, is being ECM'd, and this Augurer is just not keeping it alive.
Yeah, the Augurer may be a little bit jammed. We're not seeing much from repair, even though we do have the icon on top of it. And the Sleipnir will be having the Insular Shield Booster being the autocannon variant. And they just don't have the damage to punch through it. 2 Navy Brutixes, a Harbinger, a Confessor, and Vexers might eventually chew through it, but it's going to take so much time that they're going to lose beliefs on in the Harbinger, clearly a member of Team 10 in Losec, and possibly the Navy Brutix of Captain Ankura, who's tackled as well. J.A. Aloyas is dropping, but he's holding rather well in shield, just running that ASB flat out.
Yeah, as finally as he drops into structure, he starts pulsing his ASB to help that scimitar keep it alive. But unfortunately, the scimitar's got close enough that it has been scrammed. It is only a micro warp drive ship. It can only fit one and have a good tank, and it's just dropping. It can't get away. It's pulsing its ASB, but it doesn't look like it's going to survive.
Yeah, it survives long enough, though. Even if Sharp drops, Snuffed Out is in a commanding position. They've completely locked out this Navy Brutix of Olegmen. Snuffed Out actually really just completely dominating this match. I'm really surprised to see this actually play out the way it has. Project Mayhem being able to field that Flag Balgorn in this match should have given them a significant advantage, or at least an edge, but Snuffed Out is proving everyone on the desk and myself wrong. Impossible to predict matches this time around, as the Navy Brutix of Captain Ankura drops and the Scimitar of Sharp is still up.
Yeah, it's just managing to stay alive. It doesn't have any rep drones on it. The only thing keeping it alive is its own ancillary boosts.
Yeah, and Project Mayhem now only has 4 ships left. The Augurer, which has been ECM'd a significant portion of this match. A Vexer and a Confessor. Good fights in local from both sides. Even if Snuffed Out loses his Scimitar, it's not going to matter. They're just so far ahead that there's nothing Project Mayhem can really do to come back into this. I'm really not sure to be impressed by Snuffed Out or to be surprised by Project Mayhem. The Balgorn just rushed across the field and got tackled really hard by those Rattlesnake grapplers. You can try to use it more offensively to lock down the Scimitar or another ship, but it's not worth it if you trade it out and accomplish not much of anything with it.
Yeah, Snuffed Out did a really smart job here and knew people would try and bring Balgorn, Navy Brutixes, and all the Navy battlecruisers, so they've went with a comp that they know they can snipe these Balgorns and essentially eliminate the strong part of that Project Mayhem setup.
Yeah, we've got confirmation from Event that the officer webs that Project Mayhem were using were not the highest tier. They were a more intermediate officer web, which makes sense if you don't have quite the alliance tournament that some other teams may have. So the Balgorn had to be a bit more offensive if he wanted to get webs on top of the Scimitar, which I'm sure he did. The Confessor of Boris, the Blade, now dropping, and Basilai, the only remaining ship for Project Mayhem.
Yeah, you'll probably see this Augurer hang in those shields as the rest of Snuffed Out loot the field very quickly, because this is on Tranquility, so whatever you do loot from the field, you do get to keep. Anything officer from that Balgorn will be very, very useful, probably net you upgrades for your own flagship.
Yeah, Project Mayhem, now being the loser of this match, is going to have to be the one scanning out wormholes for the next month in this relationship between the two. I expect to hear a lot of banter or a lot of trash talk from Snuffed Out, beating Project Mayhem rather decisively and very convincingly. And I'm sure Apotny and everyone on the desk will break that one down for you.
Is a union of powerful mega corporations have brought its people both misery and triumph.
Hey guys, welcome back. Kind of a throwback comp there from Snuffed Out, something you might expect to see in last year's tournament, with a heavy top end faction battleship plus command ship. Those are so heavy on points this year, followed out by the lower end using the mowers. Again, it's such low cost to allow for those bigger ships. Reload, what did you think of that team comp there from Snuffed Out?
I actually like it. I like the. It's like a pseudo Minotaur rush with the rattlesnake support. Well, rattlesnake support. It is the biggest ship there. It's probably got the tank. It's probably got a light on damage as well. It's probably rocking rapid heavies and those Tech 2 ogres, since you're allowed Tech 2 drones now, and bringing mowers and caracals, which is, it's a smart choice. Mowers have a resist bonus, so they can really tank a lot of damage, which that mower did. They only lost that one mower, and it tanked for so long. If Balgorn died versus a mower, I'll take that trade any day.
Yeah, so Ithaca, if you run us through the kill mail here that we're about to bring up on screen, the kill mail of the flagship Bal from Project Mayhem, all loot, of course, going to Purunga.
Yeah, so you can see here they've gone for the officer webs, which is, as we spoke yesterday, the reason why you bring a flag Balgorn. You want that extra web range, and they've gone for, in my opinion, the better way to fit a Balgorn. They've gone for the gun Bal. I think we spoke a little bit about that yesterday as well. And perhaps controversially, they've got it for legal low slots. So unlike Band of Backstabbers, going for a completely legal Balgorn. Now, it did take 46,000 damage, which isn't really that much when you consider it. And I think that might have been because the targeted bans of Snuffbox there, they banned the Neros and the Guardian, which forced Project Mayhem to bring an Augurer rather than one of the Tech 2 logistics cruisers, and the Augurer just could not stand up to the damage coming out from those rapid heavies.
We actually have an instant replay of that being queued up here. We're going to be able to watch the Balgorn dying very, very quickly under all that DPS. Let's see how quickly it does in fact melt. Here we go, already in half armor, taking massive amounts of DPS from the Rattlesnake and the Sleipnirs. Here they go, diving in on it now. Balgorn going from the top of armor, through the middle, just like this is a pirate faction battleship. It's got all those hardeners which should be overheated, but unfortunately the Augurer, as Ithaca said, was just not able to keep up. It tries valiantly, but it's going 0 meters a second despite not being tackled, though that speed wouldn't have helped too much. It tries to start moving too late as it drops into structure and drops down. That is an extraordinarily fast Balgorn kill after the Purifier came down, and definitely possibly a bit of a misplay by Project Mayhem, just sitting there and taking it from the Snuffed Out team. Still, we have many more exciting matches today. In 10 minutes, our next match coming up is going to be Exodus versus Thermodynamics. Very exciting match there. Our penultimate match before the break in today. Two very considered elite tier PvP teams, both Exodus and Thermodynamics, full of kind of small gang, solo PvP guys, predominantly from low sec, who kind of really focus on personal piloting ability. Although we tend to say that their theory crafting of AT comps isn't necessarily that of the most top tier teams. So Ithaca, why don't you tell us a little bit about Exodus and Thermodynamics? Have you run into them on TQ at all? Has Volta practiced against them at all?
So Volta haven't actually practiced against them this year, don't believe, but on TQ, Thermodynamics, I think, are living out of Thera at the moment. They roam out of there, and as Reload said earlier on, a bunch of pretty high top tier small gang pilots from mainly US time zone. Now, one of the things that we see teams like Exodus and teams like Thermodynamics do is just pilot very well, and as you said, teams like Pandemic Legion, which are much better at the theory crafting, perhaps not so good as the execution. It's always a really interesting one to watch, especially if you have two good execution teams going up against each other. We'll see a lot of top tier piloting from individual pilots in this match, I think.
Reload, one of the things I really enjoy about the tournament is that we do have that core of top tier teams, as Ithaca was mentioning, but each of them have their own flavour, their own distinct style. I mean, what are your favourite teams that you kind of expect to do really well, and what kind of style do they bring to the tournament so the audience knows to look out for them? Okay, so you've got execution style teams, which is, Hydra Reloaded, Exodus, those quote-unquote, the higher tier teams of... they're all about execution, all about individual piloting. And you've got the Pandemic Legion, like the old guard. So you've got PL,
I can't really think of a few others. Ronin also pretty strong. Vault are also pretty good at execution as well, but they're also good at theory crafting, and they're more of like they can outplay the opponent before they even enter the match type of deal. While you've got the execution style where they'll bring this crazy, comp that's super high finesse, super high APM, where if the Logi does, messes up once, then basically the entire match is done for. While PL are more of if something goes wrong, then they can still work it out because they're supposed to outplay their opponent before the match has even started. So you've got this execution versus theory crafting, which I really, really love to see.
Yeah, so we actually have another graph available for you guys. This is a Tech 1 Cruisers graph, I've been told, as it comes up on stream here. So we were talking a little bit earlier about how the T1 Cruisers have been brought a little bit more outside, the E-War versions, which are actually 6 points. These ones are only 4. We've had a whole bunch of Vexor picks, as we've seen with the picks versus picks, absolutely. So this is a comparison of the number of times they've been picked, where if they brought 2 of them, then that's the turquoise, I believe to be correct. Now, we've already talked about the Vexor, the Moa, and the Mauler a little bit. The Moa and the Mauler being those resist heavy tackle ones, the Vexor having those heavy drone capability, utility capability. We haven't really mentioned the Caracal. It's worth mentioning the Caracal is a fantastic little ship there at 4 points, also very popular on Tranquility. I kind of wish we had Suetonia here because I know he has some very strong opinions about the Caracal match. However, he's getting ready for the Hydra Reloaded Losers round match. Ithaca, will you tell us a little bit about the Caracal and why it's a solid pick in tournament play?
So the Caracal brings a 4-point rapid light platform, which enables you to just shed off tackle. So generally, if you're bringing something like that, you're probably going to be bringing more of a kiting comp. And the worst thing that can happen to a kiting comp is you get tackled by small, fast ships. So you bring things like Caracals, and then you can, anything, for example, say a Daredevil that comes burning in to try and catch your kiting comp, the rapid light spam that you can produce can just headshot those so quickly that the rest of your team can just kite off and continue applying burst damage to break through enemy logistics as well.
Yeah, I mean, now, Reload, what I want to ask you is a certain type of ship we haven't seen that much of. We've seen a number of Vexor Navy issues, but the Navy cruisers really haven't made much of an impact in the tournament. We really haven't seen for very many years. Why are Navy cruisers not so popular in the tournament?
It's because their power ratio between Tech 1 cruisers and faction are not really worth the point cost. The reason why the Vexor Navy issue is just so strong and is so well used is because you get the 5 heavy drones, which is basically battleship DPS within 60 kilometers with almost perfect tracking. So it's a bang for your buck. I mean, there's no other ship that can really compare in a Navy cruiser status to the Vexor Navy issue. I would say it's a tad bit overpowered, honestly. But there are some weaknesses to the Vexor Navy issue. Obviously, once you've got your 5 heavy drones, you've only got 3 spare. So there is some obvious weaknesses to it, but Vexor Navy issue is really strong.
So the audience is currently predicting Exodus at 66% to Thermodynamics 34%. So definitely a strong bias towards Exodus there, as obviously they do have that tournament pred degree, making it to the top 4 in several tournaments, and other years doing very nearly as well as that. But I think that Thermodynamics do have a strong chance. I kind of believe in that 34%. What are your guys' thoughts on who's going to win Exodus versus Thermodynamics? Ithaca?
I think just basically based purely on tournament pedigree, I'm going to have to go with Exodus in this one.
Reload?
I believe Thermodynamics will have this one. I thoroughly believe that Thermodynamics will win, but Exodus is going to be the top dog, so there is that niggling feeling that Exodus might just have this one, but I believe in Thermodynamics. So
well, Exodus known for their almost fetishistic love of CCP Rive. They're a big fan of him, always feature them in her ads. I hope to see Thermodynamics a little bit more in this tournament, even if they lose here, maybe making a run through the losers bracket. I think they're a team definitely with a lot of potential for good flavor, good personality, good memes, if you will. But we will have that match in just a few minutes. There's not that much time left before the match, but we still have a little bit more time to fill here. So I want to ask you guys again, what have been some of your favorite moments thus far?
Hydra Reloaded losing to Templar's Dragonist.
Oh really? Do you want to remind us about that? Really?
Yes,
what
of course.
in fact happened?
Well, a single tier to my high. Basically, Hydra Reloaded brought like a kind of a traditional, really, like they brought a battle cruiser comp versus basically a Minotaur rush. Well, Kaldari rush even, because they brought Feroxes, Gilas, and Rattlesnakes and a Skimmy, which I don't think Hydra were actually expecting a Caldari role-playing alliance bringing a Caldari role-playing setup. Who would have thought? It's just like CVA bringing in more ships. I mean, I don't know. It's absolutely crazy.
So we actually have the bands in. Exodus banned Guardian and Neros. Solid, standard bands there, trying about an armor comp. Thermodynamics has responded with a Blackbird and Curse bands. Now you'd expect those in an armor comp themselves, but depending on the order of the bands, that may not have been clear as they came through. So what do you think we might see there if we've got Guardian and Neros? Do you think that Navy battlecruisers are off the table? Or do you think you can bring them maybe the T1 Logi or Logi Phrase, or do you think it's just not worth bringing them at all? Ithaca?
I think you can still bring it. If you've got the money, you bring a Rubisu, for example, then you can still run that comp. The Rubisu being the prize ship from last year. It's basically an armor Etana, so it allows you to evade those bans. And Exodus are definitely a team that have the money, the cash reserves to have a Rubisu in reserve.
Well, let's find out as we go to this match for AT15. It is going to be Thermodynamics versus Exodus.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am moderator joined